जब आरती होता है ना तब खुलता है, लेकिन आप जा नहीं सकते। Hare Krishna. So now there will be a Bhagavad Gita class here in the temple room. So if everyone would like to face this way, if you'd like, you can come sit here. And we will begin the class by first singing a wonderful song called Jai Radha Madhav. So if everyone would please like to join me in singing. It's usually sung in a call and response fashion. So I'll sing the first line and you can, if you like, repeat after me. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Thank you everyone for your participation. We will now begin the class. So before we begin, we will just invoke some blessings. So if you like, please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verse 32. This chapter is called Karma Yoga. So the verse is as follows: Yetva etad abhyasuyanto nanutishtanti me matam sarvajnana vimudam stan vidhi nashtana chetasa. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation: But those who, out of envy, disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of all knowledge, befooled and ruined in their endeavors for perfection. Purport: The flaw of not being Krishna conscious is clearly stated herein. As there is punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Executive Head, so there is certainly punishment for disobedience to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A disobedient person, however great he may be, is ignorant of his own self and of the Supreme Brahman, Paramatma, and the Personality of Godhead due to a vacant heart. Therefore, there is no hope of perfection of life for him. Now we will just recite the Mangala Charan. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So firstly, I'd like to thank everyone for coming today to Bhaktivedanta Manor, especially for coming to a Bhagavad Gita class or any. And before I begin, I would just like to humbly request the blessings of Srila Prabhupada, who has so wonderfully elucidated on this wonderful ancient Vedic literature and has given us such a wonderful spiritual path and progress to make our life sublime. So here, Krishna is speaking about those who do not follow his instructions, specifically these teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. And those who do not follow them, he says, are bereft of all knowledge. Here, knowledge does not necessarily mean how well we did in school. Put your hands up if you're in school at the moment. Anyone's at school? Today is actually the day where GCSE results come out, so if anyone's studying GCSEs, all the best. But here, knowledge is more than just academic grades. Knowledge is something more. and that we'll discuss later on. And here Krishna says that those who do not abide by his teachings, who disregard them, don't follow them, they are bereft of all knowledge. And therefore there is punishment. For example, Prabhupada gives an example in the purport. He says that if there is an executive head of the state, for example, in this country we have a prime minister. If the prime minister sets a law and the citizen disregards the law, he breaks the law, then naturally there's punishment. And if one breaks the law, then they're considered a criminal. A criminal can run and hide, but they've still broken the law, and eventually, when the police catch up to them, they'll be put behind bars and there'll be some sort of punishment. And similarly, there are some laws of mankind. There are some laws, and these laws are given by Krishna himself. Some of these laws or descriptions on how one should live life is described in the Bhagavad Gita. And naturally, if these are disregarded, then there will be natural consequences. And these consequences mean that sometimes we suffer. And when we look at our suffering, we may be able to, if we think about it deeply, it could be that maybe we have disobeyed the orders of the Lord. Maybe we have disobeyed something and therefore we are suffering. Now, when Krishna says we are bereft, those who disregard these teachings are bereft of all knowledge, what exactly is knowledge? So that also Krishna describes. Now, of course, it's nice to have good grades. Who here wants to grow up and have all 9s in GCSEs? Back in my time, it used to be A stars, but now that's kind of gone out the window and there's numbers. So I'm not really so familiar. I studied a while ago. But who here, put your hands up if you want amazing grades. One person. Okay, at least one person. That's better than no one. Now, that is obviously good. And that is also knowledgeable. But here Krishna is describing a different type of knowledge. And the type of knowledge Krishna is describing, he himself defines later on in the Bhagavad Gita in the 13th chapter. In the 13th chapter, from verse 8 to 12, this is what Krishna says. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of the false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever they may be is ignorance. So Krishna here has wonderfully defined what is knowledge. And here, Krishna is saying that if one is bereft of this knowledge, then they are befooled and their endeavors for perfection are ruined. So if we look at this carefully, that means that knowledge that Krishna is referring to, if we have this knowledge, then that means that we are able to perfect our lives. And what is that perfection? That perfection means that we live a happy life. Ultimately, everyone is looking for happiness. Who here wants to be sad? Put your hands up if you want to be sad. Put your hands up if you don't want to be sad. Okay, everyone's hands should go up. I hope so, at least. So everyone wants to be happy. Even the Vedanta Sutras, they state Anandamayo Bhyasat, that everyone has an innate inclination to be happy, to be joyful. They want to experience pleasure. But when we look at our life, when we look at everyone around us, and when we look at our circumstances, we see that people are suffering, right? Even if you just open the BBC News app on your phone, you can see so much suffering. Like, even today, there may be some students who receive their results, and their results may not be what they expected for their GCSEs. They may be suffering. And the suffering may or may not be in their control. And so ultimately, we want to become relieved of all suffering. And how can one become relieved of all suffering? By knowledge. By knowledge, one can become relieved of all suffering. There are many different types of suffering in this world. Like, for example, one may become injured, or one may go hungry, or one's brand new Audi may get scratched with a key. Some of these you may have experienced or may not have experienced. But ultimately, Krishna describes that there are four main causes of distress and suffering that he describes as Janma, Mrityu, Jara, and Vyadi. So that is birth, death, old age, and disease. Now, these sufferings may seem like quite a distant away because we may not be so close to death. We may not have experienced it before, and so we don't know what it feels like. And so that suffering may seem distant, or it may seem irrelevant in our lives. But the interesting fact is that, can anyone in this room guarantee to me today that they will not die? Can anyone guarantee to me today that they will live forever? And put your hands up if you can guarantee that you will die at one point or another. So that's everyone. That's everyone. But it's so amazing to see that we don't really think about this. We don't think about this. During our lifetime, we may aspire for certain goals and aspirations. We may aspire for certain ambitions and dreams. We may set certain targets in our life that this is what I want to achieve and this is what I want to do. But out of all of those things that we set such high goals for ourselves, how much of that can you genuinely say that you will take away with you after death? What can you take away after death? Okay, so we actually have some answers. Yeah. Nothing physical we can take away. Nothing physical. I recently got new shoes. They're really nice shoes. But I can't take them with me. No matter how nice they are, no matter how much I like them, I can't take them away with me. And so, when we aspire to achieve material objects, that is ultimately futile. Even though it may give us some happiness now, it doesn't last. So what happens when my shoes get old? Will I still be happy? What happens when they get torn? Will I still be happy? Get a new pair, yeah. And to get a new pair, I need to work 5 hours to get £100 and buy new more. And so, knowledge is understanding that how can I actually be happy? This type of happiness that we are endeavoring for at the present moment by attempting to acquire more and more material possessions is inevitably futile. And so, in the definition of knowledge, Krishna says that one of the items of knowledge is constant and unalloyed devotion unto me. So as you mentioned, bhakti. And this is actually knowledge. This is actually knowledge because this knowledge can actually make you happy. How can knowledge make you happy? By performing devotional service, one gets free from the cycle of birth and death. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvata tyaktva deham punar janma naiti mameti sojuna. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. And so for one who knows the transcendental nature and activities, uh, the transcendental activities and appearance of the Lord, in truth, they do not take birth again in this world. And therefore, by understanding or trying to understand Krishna, by understanding him in truth, one can escape the cycle of birth and death. And this means that we are relieved of suffering. We are relieved of suffering. That means that this birth, death, old age, and disease is out of the picture. But not only that we remove ourselves from suffering, but we also engage in loving devotional service unto the Lord by the process of bhakti yoga, and that gives intense happiness. So there is a difference between not being sad and being happy. For example, if someone is drowning, then they are sad, right? But if they are floating just in the middle of the ocean, then they're not sad because they're not drowning, but they're not happy either because they're not on a boat. So there is a difference between not being sad, and being happy. Alleviation of material distress is like not being sad. But actually being happy is a positive engagement in relationship to the Supreme Lord. So now one may ask, how do I engage in that relationship with the Supreme Lord? So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a verse stated how we can do this. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atma Nivedinam. This is known as the ninefold processes of Bhakti Yoga, beginning with hearing and chanting. So this hearing and chanting is very powerful. This hearing can awaken our dormant love for the Supreme Lord. At the beginning stages, however, because devotional service is a gradual thing, in the beginning stages it is described that simply by hearing and chanting that one can clear all the unwanted things in the heart. So devotional service is so nice and so broad that not only does it give one the happiness, it also alleviates one's distress. And not only that, even if you are not perfect in your performance of devotional service, still there is benefit. Even if you are successful only to a certain extent, there is still benefit. And actually there is no loss. One may think that, okay, if I do a certain amount, what happens if it goes away? But actually there's no loss. And the benefit is that as a byproduct, all good qualities manifest in the person who's performing devotional service. Gradually we see that someone who is engaging in a relationship with the Lord and is trying to understand their activities and appearance, someone who is understanding about the Lord, they become more peaceful in life, because then they understand that what I possess is not really my possession. I'm not actually the possessor, because if I was the possessor, I would be able to take it with me when I die. But I can't take it with me. For example, my shoes, I can't take them with me. So are they really mine? They're not really my shoes. I may call them mine, but they're not really my shoes. So in that way, one understands that actually Lord Krishna is the proprietor of everything in this world. He says in the Ishopanishad, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kinchit jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjita magrida kasya sviddanam. That the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of everything, and therefore one should only use what is allocated to their quota. And what that means is that when we gain something, we're not extremely overwhelmed, and when we lose something, we're not overwhelmed. Because when we lose something, we know that this is not actually my loss because it was never mine in the first place. And when we gain something, we understand that actually this is not something I have gained. It's just something that I may be able to use. And therefore, that puts one in a state of equanimity of mind. And therefore, the mind becomes less turbulent by understanding that the Lord is the supreme proprietor of everything. And when the mind becomes less turbulent, naturally, you will feel more peaceful. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that chanting is the uh, primary process of self-realization in this age. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra is so wonderful and powerful that it's so easy, but yet it gives one the highest perfection and is able to uh, give you all knowledge. Actually, from bhakti comes knowledge and detachment. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayatyash Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahitukam. Naturally, it comes. So, therefore, we encourage everyone to try this chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and therefore, one's mind will become calm and peaceful. And with a calm and peaceful mind, one will be able to relish the relationship with the Supreme Lord. So, I think we will conclude here. If there's any questions or comments or anything anyone would like to raise. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. Yes. So I've been asked to elaborate on how the body is not ours, uh, and our identity. Yes. So in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes what our identity is. Chapter 2. In many verses actually. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So Krishna describes in many verses how our identity is not necessarily this body. Like, for example, our body comprises of various things, various limbs: eyes, ears, legs, arms, hair, nails. So now, if I ask you, if you cut your hair, do you lose some of your identity? Raise your hand if you think yes. Raise your hand if you think no. You're still the same you, whatever hairstyle you have. Now, hair is also considered part of the body, no? And therefore, if you cut your hair and you're still the same person, that means that hair was never you. In the same way, if you cut your nails, for example, do you lose an element of yourself? Do you lose a portion of your identity? You don't. You're still the same you. So actually, Krishna describes that just in the way that uh, our bodies are changing in this lifetime. For example, uh, you may or may not remember, but we were all like this height at one point. And in that height, we had small teeth and small eyes, like some baby face and tiny legs and arms. And now some of us have grown up, some of us have grown up even more, some are yet to grow up. But at one point or another, we don't look like how we did when we were 5 years old. But yet you're still the same person. So that means your identity must be more than what you just see in the mirror. And therefore Krishna describes that just as our bodies pass, our identities pass through childhood to youthhood to old age, similarly the soul passes through a, to a different body after we give up this old one. Another example is made that the body is like clothing. Like at the beginning of the day, we put on fresh clothes, and at the end of the day, we take those clothes off and put them in the wash. And at the beginning of a new day, we put on new clothes. So, in the same way, our identity, which Krishna describes as the soul, that soul takes on a new body after death. At the time of death, the body is rendered useless, is no longer able to function as it previously was, is no longer functioning in uh, an orderly manner. And therefore, the soul gives up this body and takes on a new body, just in the same way that we give up old clothes and put on new clothes. So, Krishna describes that our identity is not this body, it is something more than this body. And to help understand this is maybe worth explaining what is the body and what is the soul. So the body is comprised of 8 elements. There's 2 aspects to the body, the subtle body and the gross body. So Krishna describes in, I think, the 7th chapter, Bhumi Rapo Nalo Vayu Kham Mano Buddhirevacha Ahankariti Yamme Binna Prakritir Ashtada. Krishna has 8 aspects of external energy, and those are earth, water, fire, air, ether, and mind, intelligence, and false ego. So we see that our physical body is made up of matter, is made up of material elements. Like there's a certain amount of oxygen in the body, there's a certain amount of carbon, hydrogen, etc., etc. So that is the physical body. But there's also another aspect of the body called the subtle body. And this subtle body is made up of the mind, intelligence, and false ego. Now, when we change bodies, after death, we may take on a new body, which is also known as reincarnation. We may give up the physical body, but there are certain aspects of the subtle body that still remain. In terms of the nature of the soul is described as Satchit Ananda, meaning that it is full of bliss, eternal, and full of knowledge. But actually, the reason why we don't experience this at this present moment is that we are covered. We are covered by these material layers. And therefore, by performing devotional service, we can gradually purify ourselves and eradicate these layers so that we are able to actually experience the true and eternal nature of the soul. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. I just finished. Hare Krishna, everyone. We will be having Gora Arti very soon. Please do stay for Arti starting at 7 o'clock. Hare Krishna.
Whoever's there, just
Is it okay?
yeah.
I'm not imposing, am I?
No. Because no one's already come.
Okay, all right. Is that are you sure? I don't actually get to go to the manor too often. So if no one else wants to sing, that'll be my honor. Yeah. Do you sing as well? Do you mind? Oh no, it's okay. Thank you. Yes. The simple Pranavani, yes. Okay, no problem. Hare Krishna. I'll just, at 7 o'clock, I'll transfer to that one. Is that okay? Because there's 7 minutes. I might as well. Is this loose? Oh, thank you. जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे बोलो जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे जय राधा गोकुलानंद जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे जय सीता राम लक्ष्मण हनुमान सीता राम लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय सीता राम लक्ष्मण हनुमान सीता राम लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय निमाय निताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय निमाय निताय जय गौरानिताय हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा 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 हरे हरे Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. जय राधा गोकुलानंद, राधे राधे, राधा गोकुलानंद, राधे राधे. Stand for 7 p.m. Aarti. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Bhagwan ki, Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Gaur Nitai Bhagwan ki, गिरी गोवर्धन की, शिला प्रभुपाद की, शिला प्रभुपाद की, शिला प्रभुपाद की. We'll be singing the Gora Arti, and you'll find the wordings for the Arti on the top right hand side here. Please do follow. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande, Arati ko shobha. Jaya Jaya Gaura Chande, Arati ko shobha. आरती को हे ना ब्रह्मा आदि देव गाने नर हरि आदि गौरी बाहो कोटि चंद्रजिनी वदन उज्ज्वला बाहो कोटि चंद्रजिनी वदन उज्ज्वला गाला देशे बना माला कोरे झलमाला शिवा सुखाना राधा प्रेमे गाधा गाधा भक्ति विनोदा देखे गोरा जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमः विष्णुपदाय Let's all sing for Krishna. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Everybody. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bolo bolo. Let's chant for Krishna. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 नित्य गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्य गौरा हरि बोल जय गोविंदा जय गोपाल केशव माधव दीन दयाल 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 all together दीन दयाल प्रभु दीन दयाल 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 जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे जय राधा जय राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे राधा गोकुलानंद राधे राधे जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय निमाय निताय जय गौरानिताय जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन गिरि गोवर्धन जय गिरि गोवर्धन जय सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय गौरानिताय निमाय निताय जय गौरानिताय Srila Prabhupada, Gurudeva Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. If everyone can please bow down to our beautiful lordships and pay their obeisances. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Bhagwan ki, Radha Gokulananda ki, Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Gaur Nitai Bhagwan ki, Giri Govardhan ki, Narasinghadev Bhagwan ki, Bhakta Prahlad Maharaj ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. If everyone can please be seated. And we'll now sing the Nrsingadev prayers for our protection. Thank you. You're welcome. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya.
Lord Nishingadev Bhagwan ki, Bhakta Prahalad Maharaj ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaura Brahmananda Hari 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 Bol. Thank you everybody for listening to the Aarti. And we've got now Mahaprashadam outside. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Yes, thanks. Beautiful book. Thank you.
So I think I need to try to help the keep it's nice to meet you. Thank you so much. Used to it. You play? Do you sing? Is that Hare Krishna? I remember you, I don't remember him.
Now you
He was
go.
very
What you talk?
He's older than me.
I thought he was younger. Are you both staying at the manor at the moment? Do you do a lot of kirtan? Nice. It's nice, isn't it? Really nice. We're very fortunate. Is your mum in the country or is she out?
She's working. She's out already. She comes.
How's your sister? Does she stay at home?
Yeah. The two sisters.
Oh, I thought you only had one. I only
One
know
is,
one.
one is 4
Thank
years.
you.
One is 4 years old.
Okay, I know
She
the
was
old.
born like 19.
I know the older one. The older one was in class with. I'm just trying to think.